Guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell based on the title, well guys, Phoebe Philo's collection came out today, October 30th at 11 Eastern today. We all knew it was gonna happen. She did give us a fair warning a month in advance, and then earlier there were hints at it. So we knew finally it was here and it came, and oh my gosh, it's like almost sold out. I do apologize, pretty much by the time this video goes up, I don't really know what's gonna be left. If for whatever reason you're not familiar with who Phoebe Philo is, you just stumbled upon my channel. She was the creative director in the early to mid 2000s at Chloe, right after Stella McCartney. Prior to that, she was kind of like the second in command when Stella McCartney was the creative director at Chloe. She was really known for that boho chic, but there was also this vision of grown-up femininity. She was known for her baby doll dresses to the boho looks, but we also saw this vision of how she, as a young woman, wanted to dress. And then she took a very extended maternity leave. She wanted to take time with her children, which was very controversial. When you read a lot of articles from back in the day, it was not something that was looked at in a positive way, but she did. She took an extended maternity leave. She came back to Celine 2008, and she took this brand that frankly no one really was talking about. Yes, there was the Michael Kors era, but after that it was kind of the struggling house at LVMH, and she made that brand become one of the hottest brands of the 2010s. It was that chic minimalism, this vision of this modern woman, this working woman, this woman that lived a very multifaceted life, was very felt in her collections. And one thing people always talk about with her works is how she looked at fashion through the female perspective, making clothes for women by a woman. And I definitely feel like a lot of the themes that we saw in Celine are still felt in this collection. And while she did leave the brand in 2017, it almost feels like with this collection, she's kind of just picking up where she left off. It doesn't even feel there really was a break. She's taking what she started at Celine, but it's now her own brand. She's able to do what she wants with it. So one thing I really felt with this collection was we saw this almost like continuation of this kind of tough girl, or this tough woman. Her as a woman, she's been through a lot. She's had to go through a lot to get where she's at. She recently just turned 50, and she is not one of these, in many cases, like a nepo baby. Yes, her mother was in the creative industry. She was a graphic designer who famously did graphic design work for David Bowie. Relative to her peers like a Stella McCartney, she never really had that same leg up the way a lot of other designers did. She wasn't inherited a line, she wasn't a celebrity, and she really had to work her way up. But I feel like the story of this persevering woman to also be a working mother and to be able to negotiate with LVMH to make sure that work life meets family life conditions is something we don't hear a lot about in fashion. I think Phoebe Philo's story is something that really resonates with a lot of women. Just her life experience, being a working mother. It's not easy to be a working mother and to have that balance in your life. Some women can do it, but a lot of women will tell you it's not easy. And when I see her clothing, it's about this persevering woman. When I look at this clothing, when I look at this collection, I see a very tough woman. Now let's go into the handbags, because I know you guys really want to talk about handbags. Now, if I'm going to be honest, I did not buy a handbag. I bought two things from this collection. I did not buy a handbag. The handbags from this drop, they didn't really tug at my heartstrings, and I feel like if I'm going to buy a bag, it's got to give me the feels. But she had this one bag, it was called the Gig bag. It really reminded me of the Trio bag. We have it with silver hardware. It came in black, white, and this beautiful oxblood color, all sold out. Another bag that was really reminiscent of some of her older works at Celine was the Small Kit Cabas bag. It's kind of this rectangular tote style bag. It really reminded me with that rectangular sort of clasp. It really reminded me of the Celine Classic or the Trapeze. Not the same, but that kind of metal accent just reminded me of that. Again, it's all sold out. I'm so sorry. They had a furry variation. And then the bag that has not sold out, at least as of now when I filmed this video, it hasn't sold out yet, but it's because the price point is kind of crazy for this. Personally, I find the price too high for this bag, but it's just this tote bag, very minimal tote. But yeah, the price, just, I couldn't do it. But one thing I will also say about this release is this collection is going to have a few other drops, which we'll talk about. But there was this other bag that we saw with the promotional images that did catch my eye. While I was waiting for Phoebe Philo to have this great capacious bag, this was not the bag for me. But one thing with this collection, we saw a series of promotional images. One bag that kind of stole my heart. I feel like this to me is the Phoebe Philo era bag for me. It's very much that angular clasp bag style, but it's got this kind of vertical quilted leather. To me, the other bags, yes, they were kind of interesting. They sold out, obviously, with the exception of the tote. Another thing about this collection, which leads me to my next point, which is kind of like an overwhelming theme, is whenever Phoebe Philo comes back, at least with her comeback to Celine, and then this second coming or third coming, is she almost like likes to break the rules. With this collection, she obviously did not do a runway. She did not have a major, huge marketing campaign. She gave us Instagram post with a black screen, and then September 30th, she gave us that kind of hint of what was coming. But it wasn't really endorsed by celebrities, influencers, that kind of approach to marketing, nor was it this lavish runway show, nor was it something that we would see in stores. She literally did something that was in the opposite direction to the direction at Celine, which is very anti-online. This collection was exclusively online. Apparently there's going to be something like 2 collections dropped each year. Edits is what they're called. So this is A1. And then they're going to be within each collection edit. I believe they're going to be drops. 1 major drop and then 2 smaller drops, I believe. From what I've read, there's going to be 1 major drop. This drop was the major drop, and we're going to have 2 smaller drops. This bag that we're seeing here is going to be in this drop. Apparently there's going to be another one in December. I just also noticed there were some items like these boots, these sunglasses that were stated coming soon. Not everything was dropped all at once, but the bulk of it was dropped with this first release, and then we're going to see other drops as part of this A1 collection. And the whole purpose of this line, which is very much in line with what she did at Celine, she stated, quote, "Our aim is to create a product that reflects permanence. The Phoebe Philo business model is designed to create a balance between production and demand, and for us," she says, "this means producing notably less than anticipated want." While there's 150 pieces, and I think we've only seen something like 100 pieces drop this first time, and then maybe another 20 in December, another 20 in like, I don't know, January or something, and then the spring launch comes. The quantities of these items, they're really taking control of the production. She's taking full control of this brand, but like that just from a business perspective also means greater profits for the brand. Considering one of these struggles she had at Celine was often she would drop a collection and then a week later Zara would have this collection readily available, a dupe of it, right? This way she can also take control of her designs. While we're gonna probably see Zara dupe all of these things next week, it still allows her to have a greater ownership of her designs. Another thing that we have to talk about, this has been very heavily criticized on social media, and it is the pricing. Yes, the pricing, this is not affordable. This is not entry level for the most part. Maybe the sunglasses, which literally sold out in 2 seconds. Like guys, I wanted those sunglasses that were $425, the cat eye ones. The site was glitching up so much. I was trying to check out and it just wouldn't let me do it. And I know several of you were telling me that the website was glitching on you. It's probably to be expected considering how anticipated it was, how every fashion outlet was reporting on this at the time. Anyways, that was the cheapest item. There was this fur coat, which was price upon request. There was a dress that was $19,000, just an insane amount. If I'm gonna be honest though, when I look at the pricing of this, it is really not that different from, say, the Row, and it's not that much different than, say, the pricing of her products at Celine. Spending $3,000 on a bag, yes, that's expensive, but that's kind of the norm with a lot of these high-end luxury brands. To me, that tote bag though was a little bit ridiculous. The other thing is this is not gonna go on sale. This is selling out right away. So now I've gone through the technical stuff about this collection. Let's talk more about the themes because that's more interesting to me. One theme that was very much felt, which honestly I really loved, and it is this like hint of eroticism in this unconventional way. I also think this is how she's setting herself from a lot of other brands that we are seeing in this realm, this kind of minimalist realm. It still comes from the female gaze. And there's something also just very adult about a lot of these clothes. And she's always championed this idea of women maturing, it being a beautiful thing. And I think this is something that we haven't really seen explored. Think about the Row or Bottega Veneta, or actually, you know, maybe Daniel Lee a little bit, but you know, Hermes. I think there's just something a little bit more restrained and very conservative. And not that one is better than the other. I just think it's very refreshing refreshing to see. And just look at these pants with the zippers that go all the way up to the butt cheeks, okay? Like, am I gonna wear that? No, I'm not gonna wear that. I think it's super cool to see this like hint of eroticism. And just on this topic of ready to wear, a lot of it is very wearable, go-to pieces like coats and trenches, but there's that Phoebe Philo touch, whether it be an extra piece of fabric or like the asymmetry of this item. It's not your typical like sequin gown or asymmetric dress. As someone super petite, like I could not pull that off. I wish they made a petite size version of this. For the right woman, this would just look so chic. Also, this bright red dress with this furry finish. It also comes in this deep berry color. It just kind of references this weird and strange oddness that Phoebe Philo always had with her collections. The way she was the one that did the furry sandals that every brand is copying right now. And we're seeing her do this on clothes. And so now let's talk about color. To me, this is a very neutral, heavy collection. She is a designer that is a little bit more willing to embrace color than, let's say, a brand like The Row or Peter Doe. They do embrace color, but I think Phoebe Philo, when you look at her works at Celine, she played with it heavily. There are people that do like a more colorful wardrobe, but may not necessarily want a logo wardrobe, but they like color. When we look at even just her first collection at Celine, it was very neutral, but then over time we saw very bright, bold colors, very whimsical collections introduced. But at the same time, with every collection, she never abandons her minimalist clientele. She will always have those elevated wardrobe pieces, but then she'll also have those whimsical pieces. She's able to have both. She's able to create statement pieces and also very wearable pieces. But whatever your scale of whether you like more classic items or you like more statement, there's always something there, but in sort of Phoebe Philo's image. I know this aesthetic is not for everyone. I know some people will look at this and be like, this is really weird, and then there's gonna be some people that'll say this is too basic or whatever, but I feel like it kind of speaks to that customer base that kind of likes both, that practicality, but she also is willing to experiment. Another theme that was very felt in this collection was kind of her like matriarchal identity with this comeback collection, especially in this kind of landscape. I've done a whole video on all of the creative directors, people that have like leading roles at these major fashion houses, how many of them studied under her. Recently, the new creative director from Chloe, she's also someone that studied under Phoebe Philo. Pretty much in this landscape of all of her students, it's almost like her identity, it's very much felt in this collection. She had this necklace and it's called the mum necklace. Apparently, the silver necklace was the first thing to sell out. Super interesting to me, would not have expected that. In the promotional image, when she first announced she was gonna launch her brand, she was wearing a necklace that said mom. Within this promotional image we're seeing, we've got this person wearing this mum necklace, the silver version, right, that's sold out. Is this someone who also identifies as a mother, or is this somebody that really loves their mother? Another picture that I saw that was very striking to me is this image of a woman, and she has this vertical scar, and it makes me wonder, is this like a vertical C-section scar? I'm just saying this just as somebody that has a C-section scar. You just like don't see that in fashion. But here's this woman with this gold bikini and her black nails. This gold bikini we did not see. There are some looks to anticipate. For instance, these sandals, they remind me of another pair of sandals that she did at Celine. Found these shoes. They look so difficult to walk in, just with the toes peeking out. Phoebe Philo always loved those weird, odd shoes that are so strange to look at. I think she does those so well. Also, these sunglasses we did not see. And also the pouch bag that we saw in some of the early promotional images. We did not see either. There are a few other pieces from this 150 item collection that are still going to be dropped in December, I believe is going to be the next date. If you guys want me to talk about that, I will talk about it. If you missed out on this, by the time I post this video, probably most of the collection will have been sold out. In conclusion, this collection has been very well reviewed, and from a commercial perspective, obviously it's doing very well. Very rarely does a collection, when I think about some of these star creative directors that have had their comebacks, Phoebe Philo has consistently been able to do this, and very few designers can have an almost sold out collection as a whole in 24 hours. Usually maybe there's 2 or 3 pieces of the season that get all the hype, but there's so much in this collection that just makes us think of her work at Celine, and there's so many references to her older work, and she's owning that. And of course, her as this very experienced designer, the weight of her name, minimal, quiet luxury customer, absolutely knows who she is. I know many of you guys have been waiting in anticipation for this. I think it is perfectly positioned for success, and I think the fact that she's gone about it in terms of a business side a very different way is going to make it very successful. And she's also taking control of her own designs by releasing it right the day that it's shown. And personally, I picked up 2 items. I have a bit of anxiety as a Canadian. I'm not gonna lie. I used a package forwarding service, but I'm gonna have one critique. I really wish she did international shipping. The anxiety I have with items this expensive, I don't know how this is gonna go. I've never used a package forwarding service, so we will see. What's very interesting is when I made my purchase, it's just like, we've got your order. It's not necessarily I've secured these items, but I think there's a lot of kinks that need to be ironed out, it seems. With the first drop of a collection, it's only to be expected. If you were on the website this morning, you know the problem with the glitches, it not being a nice experience. But again, there will be another drop in December. And while the prices are very, very expensive, one thing I will say is if you wanted to get this look for less, no, you don't need to go to Kylie Jenner's brand, like whatever, if you like it, you like it. But in my video on Kylie Jenner's brand, I did talk about how do you afford quiet luxury at a more affordable price point. Those sunglasses, you can definitely find them on the pre-love market. The handbags with the rectangular metal detail, you can definitely pick up Celine classic bag or a lot of bags that kind of had that detail for a much more obtainable price. They're not going to be cheap, they're more obtainable. I think in principle, Phoebe Philo as a brand is not about necessarily wearing these items and being the most trendy now. It's about having something that transcends the trends, something that is permanent. If you just want to really have the spirit of Phoebe Philo, but you can't afford it, definitely consider checking secondhand. I picked up this old Celine coat for 300 USD. You can find the deals, you have to search for them if you're interested, and I personally love doing that as well. Definitely consider the pre-love mark. These items are just really beautifully made. They are meant to last. There is that permanence about them. So yes, that is my video. I would love to know what are your thoughts on this collection. Please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one.